Okay. All right, so when we look at this poem by Langston Hughes and we're talking about word choice, just a refresher from stuff we've already mentioned, and Darian probably has heard some of this stuff already. We have three different kinds of meanings we can use for a word. We can have the denotative meaning, connotative meaning, and the figurative meaning. Okay? So denotative meaning or denotation is like the written down dictionary definition. The way I always remember it is when you denote something, you write it down. So the denotation is the written down definition. All right? The connotation or the connotative meaning is the association we think of or we feel when we hear that word, right? So like the difference between tired and lazy, right? When we hear tired, we just think maybe somebody didn't get enough sleep, okay? When we hear lazy, that has a bit of a negative connotation. We think maybe that person doesn't try as hard. We wouldn't want to be called lazy because it has a negative connotation, has a negative association with it. So the denotation is what the word actually means. Connotation is how that word makes us feel, what we associate with it. Okay. And then the last one, the figurative meaning, is figurative language. So stuff like raining cats and dogs, or I slept like a rock, where we mean something other than what the words actually say. So we don't mean that there's literally cats and dogs falling from the sky. We mean what? When you say it's raining cats and dogs, what does that mean instead? That there's cats and dogs falling from the sky or something else? And this is open to either of you. If either of you want to know, you can answer me verbally or in the chat.
Like it's raining a lot.
Yes. So that's the figurative meaning. Figurative meaning it like puts a figure or a picture in our head. When we hear raining cats and dogs, we think, oh, it's raining a lot. We know there's not actually cats and dogs falling out of the sky. So that would be the figurative meaning of the word. What it's supposed to represent, not what it actually says. So once we figure out, all those meanings, if you look at this chart down here at the bottom of this activity, then we also take into account, what's the impact or the meaning that those words have on the text. So how do those words make the reader feel? And the way I think about that is, okay, if they would have used a different word, would it have had the same effect? Would it have had the same impact or meaning? Like if he said the guy was exhausted, would it have had the same meaning as if he would have just said he was tired? So that's what we got to think about when we figure out impact or meaning on the text. And then it could also affect the tone of the text, meaning like, the attitude that the author has. So when I think about tone, I think, right, if this poem were to, if this poem was an actual person, based on the way it sounds and the vibes that it gives off, what would this person's attitude be? Would it be happy? Would it be sad? Would it be scary? Would it be mad about something? That's what the tone of a text would be. And so the word choice can affect all of these things. Right? So what we got to do for this activity is look at this poem by Langston Hughes and figure out what are three of the most significant words and fill out this chart. So we put our word in this first box, and Darian, you might already have the first one done if we did it together last week. Put the word in this box, and then we find the denotative meaning, the dictionary definition, put that in the second box. The connotative meaning, how does that word make us feel? What's the association? We put that in this box. And then is there a figurative meaning? Is this word supposed to represent something else, like raining cats and dogs? We can put that in this last box. Do that for all three boxes, and then there's two questions to answer here, right? So Madi, if you weren't here last week, what Darian and I did is we read through this poem, which you can do on your own once I'm done going over everything. And we said, okay, one of the first words that stands out is this word in the title, weary, right? So we went ahead and we highlighted that. So I'm going to do that right now. Right. And if you have this open, you want to follow along, go ahead. If not, I'm going to leave it up here so you can. All right. So we highlight that word, and then we go down to our chart, and we type in weary right here. That's our word. And then now we got to fill in these boxes. So denotative meaning is which one? Denotative meaning would be which one? The dictionary definition, how it makes us feel, or it's supposed to represent something else. Do we remember from what I was just talking about which one of those denotative would be?
Like the feeling, or
So the feeling, or the association, that would be the connotative meaning. So denotative meaning would then be what instead? Remember, when you denote something, you write it down. So the denotative meaning would be the written down definition or the dictionary definition, right? That's the easy way to remember it. So what we can do is we can just Google weary, type that in, and then it'll pull up the dictionary definition. So we can copy and paste that. Feeling or showing tiredness, especially showing exertion or lack of sleep. Copy, and then I paste that into my chart here. Okay. And now I want, like Darian said, the connotative meaning, which is the feeling that we associate. So if somebody's tired and somebody's weary, which one of those has, what's the connotation there? Does one have a little bit of a more negative connotation, or a connotation that implies something a little different? Which one do you think sounds worse? If somebody's tired or if somebody's weary? Which one of those do you think sounds like the worst thing to be?
weary.
Weary. I think so too. Why? How does weary differ
More
from
worn out.
Being just tired?
Cause you like ran down and
Right.
like
Right. I know some of this might be reviewed, but that's okay because then Mod can get it too. So if you're weary, you can be more than just, oh, I didn't get enough sleep. You could be run down because you're hungry, because you've been working a lot, because you're stressed, right? So connotative meaning, we can say weary has a bit of a negative connotation, if I can remember how to spell, because it implies that you are. It could give you a lot of different definitions to it. Are you talking about for the denotative one or for the connotative one, Modesty? Which one do you mean? Connotative. Yeah, so that could be the case. So everybody, like different words could have different connotations to different people based on your associations or your experience. The important thing to remember is that we know the difference is denotative means the dictionary definition, connotative is, the association or what you think of when you hear that word. So whatever that is to you, put that in the chart. Usually we can tell whether a word has a more of a positive or negative connotation, but sometimes it might vary depending on the word. Like weary isn't too far one way or the other, but like again, our example of tired or lazy has a little bit more of a negative connotation in general. So we can put that in our chart. Weary has a bit of a negative connotation because it implies that you are very physically. I cannot type today. And emotionally run down, not just sleepy, right? And then figurative meaning, there might not be one of these for each word you pick because weary doesn't necessarily mean something other than it sounds. But if we looked at, this example at the end of the poem where it says he slept like a rock or a man that's dead, that would have, rock would have a figurative meaning there. Because we know he's not really a rock, but he's trying to say he slept very soundly. So if you have nothing in the figurative meaning for for one of the boxes, that's okay. Not every word is going to have a figurative meaning attached. Right. So that's how you would go through and do that chart. So you're going to do the same thing for the last 2 rows. So pick 2 more words in that poem that you think have the greatest impact on you as the reader, and then fill out this chart and then answer these 2 questions at the bottom. Okay. Once you finish that activity, then you can go back and you can do checkpoint 2, which is basically doing the same thing just for some different poems. Okay. So when you get to that spot, let me know, and I can kind of recap, review what you have to do for checkpoint 2. Right. And so then once you guys finish these 2 activities, you are good for this class. There's one other final product that you can do for some extra credit. If you want, I'm going to assign it that way since I didn't get as far into the project as I wanted to. But as far as today, that's the rest of your to-do list. Is finish this word choice pre-assessment activity and then finish checkpoint 2. And then you guys are good. And honestly, you just have that little bit of checkpoint 1 to finish. Okay. So I'm going to leave this shared on my screen for a couple minutes. And then the rest of the time is for you guys to work, and I'll stay on if you have questions about anything. And then let me know. What do you want me to email to you, Modesty? The recording of this class or a picture of the chart? Can I email you the recording? Is that what you mean? Okay, yeah. As soon as I send it to Mr. Rogers when we're done, but as soon as he formats it and sends it back to me, I will send it over to you. Okay. So for right now, you guys can go ahead and Modesty, I know you said you don't have your laptop with you. So Darian, your to-do list is, again, those 2 things, the word choice pre-assessment and checkpoint 2. Modesty, same for you. And then just finishing that last little part of checkpoint 1. So Mod, if you have to go because you're on your phone and you don't have your laptop and you're going to jump back on or finish it later, that's fine. I'll send you the recording. And Darren, if you want to jump off to work, I will stay on the chat if you have questions and you want to jump back on at any point. But that is pretty much it. There's not really another lesson today since it's the last week. I want to give you guys as much time as possible to get caught up on the work. Okay?
All right.
All right. So I'm going to stop my screen share. I'm going to stay on the chat. And Marty, like I said, when I get this back from Mr. Rogers, then I will send it to you.